Me and Bijou have got to get back to the ghetto stats. Take your alligator. Stop being ridiculous.
He's unbothered.
What's up, everybody? Thai Rivera here, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. There was something flickering for a second there, so I got a little thrown off, but never mind all of that. We're going to talk about my current situation and everything that's been going on lately here on Unbothered, because I think some people are like new to the channel, or maybe they're just dumb, or maybe slow on the uptake. I don't know what happens with these people. I don't pretend to know what happens with these people. All I know is that sometimes people think they're being sassy with me, and it's like, you're not being sassy right now. You're sounding really dumb. Like when people are like, it's called Unbothered, but you seem really bothered. The way the show goes, dummy, is I start off bothered, and then throughout the episode, I work myself to unbothered. As in, I don't carry it around with me for the rest of the week. I don't care what happens with these people later on. I just talk about it because it's entertaining and it's a good way to vent. And I have a lot of people saying things about me that aren't necessarily true. And that's the other part of why this podcast even came to be a thing. Originally, it was just audio. And it was because people would tell stories about me and say that I said things or did things I didn't do. And it was just like, yeah, I know how I can clear this up. I can put out a podcast. And originally it was on audio, and then for a while I didn't really pay attention to it, and then I started putting it on video as well, and now here we are. So that's the whole theme and the whole reason for the podcast. And then somebody said the other day in a comment that the Las Vegas comedy scene is non-existent, and I know that's my point again, dummy, is I'm making the Vegas comedy into what I need it to be so that it can grow into what I know it can be, and a place for all of us to be able to make money and do stuff. Why is it comedy entertainment on the Strip is worth millions of dollars? A mile off the Strip, it's worth 30. Why is that? Should that be happening? I can tell you no, that shouldn't be happening, because there are enough talented people, whether they're in the newer phase and going to grow into what they need to be to actually help the entertainment part of this city, especially when it comes to stand-up, or they're already almost there. The talent is here in Las Vegas is what people don't get, but it's just being kind of cut off because some people don't want to understand that it's okay to not like people. It's okay to not choose to work with people and still not completely try to torpedo them. Like every once in a while, you're not going to agree with something somebody says. Does that mean that that person needs to get blackballed? Does that mean that everything that person does is a terrible thing now and they could never be helpful to anybody else just because they somehow crossed you? But really, if you look at the way it started, it was like originally you crossed them, or like turning themselves into the victim. Like Julianna put up some victim posts, which if you don't know who Julianna is, that is Ian's girlfriend, who I've talked about before. And I've already said that I think Julianna is a terrible partner, and I think she's an enabler, and she needs to go to Al-Anon. I think Al-Anon is the one that they go to when they're constantly enabling people, because that's what she is. It doesn't have to be alcohol necessarily, but she's just codependent, because otherwise she would, as a good partner, look at Ian and say, look, this is stuff you have been doing. I mean, like, nobody can dispute the things that I said, that Ian said about me, which, like I said, I didn't even know he was talking about me at first. For me, there was no reason for him to be talking about me because we hadn't had a thing. But apparently because he's loyal to other people, which I hadn't realized that or even thought about it, I don't ever see him around those people or those people around him. And back when I was friends with those people, they didn't talk about him like he was of any consequence, or they thought of him as like one of the big dogs here in Las Vegas. And that's just the fact of it. You forget I was friends with everybody that doesn't like me now. But you know that he's just started something with me out of nowhere, and I said it publicly, and maybe that's where some people could say that I was wrong, but I didn't feel wrong because I felt like any other time that I tried to come to Ian as an adult about something, he just wouldn't hear it. Like, he doesn't for some reason want to hear anybody tell him the truth, which I know can be hard if you're a person like that's partner and you don't want to be single, which is what I get the feeling is going on with Julianna. And so at a point, she called me a liar during back and forth where I clearly was not lying. The person that I was talking about, Anthony Victorson, was on the one on that episode, and I'm not trying to name check him to like put him in an awkward position or anything like that. I feel like me and Anthony's friendship is strong enough that he'll know and see what it is I'm doing and like listen to what I say. I mean, like, not listen to what I say like I'm in charge of him, but like hear my words and hear what I'm saying. Like, the only reason I mentioned Anthony Victorson is because it was on that conversation conversation that had happened. And it was like Ian had gotten mad at Anthony for even hanging out with me, which is a childish thing. Like, why would you care? And then he yelled at Anthony, and then I said something about it publicly, and then I shared a text where Anthony had said that, and then Ian still continued to deny it. Well, on that same post, Julianna made it seem like I was a different kind of person and also accused me of basically lying by saying Ian hadn't started anything with me when really he just had. That's what it was. And so I got annoyed with that, and then I said something about calories in versus calories out because Julianna is a bigger girl, and I'm not trying to be rude. That's just a description. She's a BBW, you could say. And I do think she's pretty, and I did like her. I mean, I still do like her. It's not like I've completely turned to not liking her. I don't like this behavior from her. But, you know, the thing is, I am a notorious fat shamer. I've been a fat shamer since I was a kid. And if you're fat and you're comfortable with yourself, I'll never say anything to you, or it'll never be a thing because I know it's not a thing. But if you call me what I consider to be the worst thing is calling me a liar when I'm completely not lying, and you know for a fact that I'm not lying, to me, that is the worst thing you can do to somebody, because then you're trying to make them question their own sanity. You're trying to make them question whether or not it's true gaslighting. You're trying to make them believe that something that's really happening isn't really happening. And you know that. And to me, that's evil. So yeah, I sailed a fat joke her way, but it was clever, you know. I don't remember. It was something about calories in versus calories out. And then she said, you know, she reported me to Facebook. I got suspended for a little while, 30 days or whatever. And then since then, she's held on to that. And the other day she put up this post like some cyberbully or however she said it, so dramatic, and shared a picture of herself. You know, some cyberbully said that I was fat, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, I did say you were fat. I'm admitting I said you were fat, which is more than Ian will do. Because like I said, Ian will talk about me, and then you and Ian and whoever else you guys are hanging out at that time will make it seem like I'm just completely making this up. I'm not playing with your brain, Julianna. I'm saying I said a fat joke. That's what it was. I'm not going to try to tell you. But I didn't say a fat joke. My joke was actually about calories in versus no, it was a fat joke. That's what it is. And if fat people come at me sideways, guess what? I will sink your battleship. I'm childish like that. You notice I said battleship and not battleship? It's because that's how childish I am when it comes to fat shaming. But I don't really care because people will say all the same insults at me all the time. You think people don't do plastic surgery jokes with me all the time? Yes, I know. But the thing is, I'm not going to give a fuck about it, just like I don't think Julianna should give a fuck about it, just like I don't think that if Julianna really felt as comfortable with it as she tried to make it seem, like I don't care at all. Well, here it is 2 months later and you're taking a picture of yourself naked, well, close to naked, you know, not naked, but that's naked. So, you know, and act like I own myself. You don't have to reclaim yourself if you feel comfortable in who you are, girl. That's not the way that works. So it's clear that it actually did bother you. And also, it's clear that you're not as comfortable as you pretend to be because the pictures were in black and white. And we all know how kind and forgiving black and white is. If you really felt that way about yourself, you'd be like, here I am, live and in living color. You might even twerk it a little bit just to let us know you really don't give a fuck. But that whole post basically said you gave a fuck. And you're not getting that I just did it to get under your skin because you had said something that got on my nerves. Like, don't lie about me and I won't tell the truth about you. Like, it's as simple as that. There's no reason for us to really have a back and forth, Julianna, because as I've already said, I personally did not like you. I did like you. I technically could still like you. I just wish you would stop this enabling behavior. And then, like, I posted about or talked about Garrett Hall the other day, and that's just for the reason this podcast was created, was because some people think that I in some way victimized Garrett Hall or just was mean to him out of nowhere or decided to call him out. And I wanted people to know exactly where that came from. And Garrett knows between me and him how it goes, but also for Garrett to hear from my mouth exactly the way it went down, because he knows that it's indefensible. And the stuff that I said about him wasn't even bad. I said I didn't wish him any ill will. I said that he's welcome at Ocha Bar if he wants to come to Ocha Bar sometime. I think he and AJ get along, so if he were to just talk to AJ would make sure that he got up like he needed to, you know. And so I didn't say anything. I said that he wasn't a groundbreaking comedian. Did anybody think Garrett was a groundbreaking comedian? Did Garrett think he was a groundbreaking comedian? Was Garrett going for groundbreaking comedian? Because everything that he does is pretty just basic and surface and safe. And so, I mean, like, I didn't think that was at all an insult. I mean, it's just I don't, like, when I said my thing, it was making it clear that, yeah, I don't need any of the people that work with me to really work with me. I mean, like, there was one person that I felt like really put me through my paces, and I used to take him on the road with me all the time, and that's my friend Chris Rubio, who I've talked about before, and who came out to do my shows at the Thunderbird with me. But Chris Rubio, I liked him because he presented a different challenge, because he has a looper on him, which, you know, is a musical device, that electronic device that records your voice and it'll repeat it over and over and repeat it over and over and repeat it over and over and stuff like that. And he's also very high energy, and so I used to take him on the road with me because I used to like to force myself to follow all of that madness just with me talking into a mic. But you know, I don't feel like I need anybody to the point where it's like, oh, they're so different. And Garrett Hall wasn't that guy. So like I said, when he was feeding into that negative behavior without me, I don't care if you choose not to stand up for me, because I have plenty of friends that just stay completely neutral. Like Bruce Leonard is one of those friends, my friend Bruce Leonard, and I've taken him on the road and he doesn't say anything bad about me. And he also, but at the same time, if people are like, you know, mad at me and he deals with those people, he'll still deal with them on the professional level, and he'll even be friends with them, and he tells both sides, me and them. Yeah, I don't get into any of that. Like, I'm here to make money, I'm here to be a stand-up comedian, and that's all I'm worried about. So if he's nice to me, I'm gonna be nice to him and friends with him. If you're nice to me and we're friends, I'm gonna be friends with you. And Bruce really is my friend, but because I know that that's the way he comes at things, I don't ask him to take a side at all. But he also doesn't try to kick me when I'm down and when the mob is on me. Also, Chris Shaw is one of those people. Me and Chris Shaw have been friends for, I think, 10 years now is what we figured out on Facebook. Because, you know, that one we did become friends when we were both on Facebook, so we became friends right away after we did that show together. And Chris Shaw has always been like that too. Like, he'll talk to me and ask me if I'm doing all right and stuff like that, but he doesn't feed into any of the gossip, and he doesn't say anything bad about me. I don't say anything bad about him. There's no, like, thing between me and Chris Shaw where it's like, oh, well, if you're gonna be my friend, then you gotta not hang out with this person. Or, like, to me, that doesn't even make sense. I don't even ask the people that are closest to me to do that. Sometimes my friends do choose to do that just because they will see, like, the behavior that's going on, and they don't want to encourage the behavior. But that's not at my request, because I know that comics need to get as much stage time as they possibly can, which is why I've never discouraged people from going to Ian's show. I even tell people when they're coming from out of town, like, if they say, do you know the different spots to get up at? And I'll tell them the different spots to get up at if I'm friends with them like that, because I don't have time to do that for everybody. I'm just being honest about that. But like, when my friends hit me up and they're like, what's going on in town, or where can I get up? I'll tell them the names of everybody. I'll tell them Fitzy, I'll tell them Steve McAnally, I'll tell them Ian Rainier, and I don't color it with my, this person and me had this go on. If they watch the podcast, they know. If they don't watch the podcast, which some of my friends don't watch the podcast at all and don't know anything, I don't try to color their opinions of anybody and tell them, you know, like, I will tell them, because, you know, it would seem unusual that I'm not giving them a referral or a recommendation. I'll just tell them, and I don't even name specifically who's what. I just say, you know, I'm not friends with all of these people, so I wouldn't necessarily use my name with everybody, but, you know, these are the places to get. And that's as much as I say. I don't try to, like, you know, oh, Ian, respect my authority, Rainier lied about me and there was this whole thing. No, go do Ian shows. Every time a comic does a show, they end up meeting more comics, and then they get booked on other stuff. And that's what my friends are coming out for usually, or that's the reason they even hit me up, and I take them seriously, and I take what they're doing as comics seriously. So I want to see them get ahead. That's what nobody ever pays attention to. And all of these things that I say in my podcast is I've always been willing to just be cool with Ian. Like I said, last week when I thought he was coming at me trying to shake my hand, I was down to shake his hand, and then it turned out he just wanted to, you know, yell at me, or not yell at me, but like, you know, be a dick and be like, you know, so are you going up? And it was just like, you know, but like I said, if you'd just been going to shake my hand, I would have shaken his hand. Like, I think that, like, it has to be an all hands on, well, no, that's a lie. It doesn't have to be an all hands on deck situation for what I want to happen in the city to happen. But it would be nice to be able to at least be at zero balance, so that we can grow things the way that we need to grow them, and not be arguing with each other and fighting with each other over things that don't matter. I'm never going to approach you and try to be like, oh, well, we should talk, or we should be best friends. We never had that relationship. I'm fine with us never having that relationship. But it should at least be able to be completely civil. It should at least be able to be completely professional. And I don't think that you should have to badmouth me every time somebody brings up my name. But honestly, if you choose to, I don't care about that either, because then people will research me me and they'll see my podcast and then they'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And everybody knows that I have no reason to lie. If I didn't like you, if I just wanted to hate you forever, I would just not like you and hate you forever. Just like I said, I'm not going to work on fat shaming. I would do it just like that. And fat shaming is a bigger deal than Ian Raniere. More people will come at me about fat shaming than would about Ian Raniere, and I still don't care about that. I fat shame. It is what it is. So my point is, I wouldn't say this about Ian if I didn't actually mean it. Like, technically things could work out a lot better if you just had your part of the world, I had my part of the world, we let comics roam as freely as they possibly need to so they can get the experience that we need them to get. Like, he asked me, because I had said something about my comics on the post, and when I said my comics, to tell you the truth, he was pressing me about, like, you know, well, who are your comics? All of them. All of the comics on the Vegas scene are my comics. It's the way I see it. You know, like, I'm trying to help them get ahead. Some of them may like me less than others, and they don't have to be mine. but the ones that are actually trying to get better, they're all my comics. And I don't say that because they have any loyalty to me as a person or in this situation or any of that kind of stuff. I'm just saying, if they want to get better and they're actually trying to get better and they extend their hand to me, then guess what? They're one of my comics, and I'm going to try to help them out as much as I can. And there's different ways that I can help people, and there's different levels to which I can help different people, but I will do my best to help all of the people that are trying to get better on the scene get to that next part at least, or try to figure some stuff out. That's why I do Comedy Tip Tuesday. But then for some reason, Ian wants to be arguing about things that don't matter. Like, get over it. I said, what did I say? That you were trying to be a leader and you weren't a good one? I still feel that way. So get over it. Just like you still feel like I'm a piece of shit. I don't care. I wouldn't hold that against you. It is what it is. You think I'm a piece of shit until I prove different. I get it. But, you know, it's like, if you notice the people that are around me and the people that come out to my mic, which is a Thai comedy dojo at Ocha Bar, you notice that people are getting better and want to get better. That's why they're around me usually, and I'm around them, you know, and then we all go to Wise Guys, and tonight I went to the dive bar, and there was a little bit of razzing there, and us just being silly with each other, and us just being friends, but that's what comedy's supposed to be. And also, if you notice, like, this should tell you what my level of not petty is, because everybody always tries to talk like I'm petty, but if you notice, even when it's people I don't like, I still clap for them like they're any other performer, because even though it is an open mic, it should come off as like a show. Like, we're in show business. That's what I don't get about any of this, you know, like Ian being mad at me and like really trying to like act like we're ruining each other's lives. Like, no, you're ruining your life because you're actually mad at me, and I'm treating this like entertainment because that's what we should be doing. Like, the stuff you're doing, like talking about me in private and stuff like that, and like trying to poison people's minds against me on the sneaks, like, why don't you make content out of that and just be the real you, and then maybe we could have dueling podcasts and people would want to watch. Why don't you do something like that? No, you'd rather poison people's minds privately and then pretend you're not doing it. Well, I'm not doing that. I'm in show business. I don't know what you're doing, like if that's the way the world of open mic production works. I don't know the most about open mic production. This is my first real foray into it. I mean, like, I hosted open mics before, but I didn't really handle any of the behind the scenes, the behind the curtain type stuff. This is my first real open mic that I actually run, and so maybe it is backbiting like that. Maybe Ian thinks I want to take his spot, but I don't want to start open mic producing and stop doing stand-up. Like, I'm just doing what I have to do so that the scene would have a Thursday night, was how this all started. And yeah, it's turned out to be fun, and yeah, it's turning into a bigger idea than I thought it was going to be, or I even, like, because we're just molding it as it goes and letting it naturally and organically do what it does. And I think that that's something that bothers Ian, because he knows he's not capable of that, because naturally he's just not creative like that. Like, Ian is great at the business side and getting rooms and stuff like that. Like, I'd be ignorant or I'd be blind not to see that that's, you know, one of his talents. And I don't even mind that or care about, like, I don't mind giving people credit on what they're good at and what they're actually doing. That's what I always say. I think Ian might have a little bit of low self-esteem and not realize that he actually does contribute to the scene. He just doesn't have the same tools that I have when it comes to what it as I do. Just like I said, but see, like a lot of people do this when they're like behind the scenes people in stand-up comedy. Like they make the mistake of thinking that because they're around stand-up comedy and stand-up comics a lot, that they know what it is to be on the stage, and you just don't. And there's nothing wrong with admitting that. Just like a lot of the stuff that he makes and the way he's able to make deals isn't really my wheelhouse right now, because I haven't done a lot on that side. Like I've done a lot of my own producing, like shows, you know, when I was starting out. That's one of the ways that I think that I like would have been better off, but also I like the way everything turned out, because I don't think I would have been able to handle like the way that people treat you when you're that much of a presence. Because even like now, like if this had happened 10 years ago where it felt like the whole world turned on you, I probably would have reacted to it in a different way. But because I've been through so many things on the internet, now when people try to cancel me, I'm like, whatever. When people like, you know, try to make it seem like nobody likes me, I'm like, whatever. I go out in the world, people like me. And so I didn't know that back then, and I think I would have brought on more success for myself than I probably could have handled. And I think everything happens on God's time. Like I really do believe that, and I'm fine with that. So now it's time for me to make some actual moves, and anybody that's in the way is just going to get moved. That's what's going to happen, and in a completely legal way. I'm not trying to do any kind of gangster shit. That's why anybody ever talks about, you know, I'm going to beat you up or any of that shit, I'm always like, yeah, I'll call the police right away. That's what's going to happen with that. You are not winning this white man game against me, because that's what it is. Because like these people really don't want that kind of life or that kind of situation. They're just trying to intimidate me from being on the scene. And they also know that if they were to get my temper to flare up and then I did something in front of the police, like, or that could be legally actionable, then they'd be able to remove me from a lot of shit, like, you know, legally. And that's just what would happen. Like, look I got attacked at Strat at the LA Comedy Club, and the LA Comedy Club knows the full story and knows that I did get attacked, and nobody disputes that. But for some reason, I get treated like I did something wrong. So that's the way things work for me. So I do have to be particularly careful when people are gunning for you in that way. And I don't mind admitting that I will be completely aware of that. And anytime anything happens that shouldn't happen, the police are getting called. That's just what's going to happen as far as I go. You're not taking me down that road, because we don't have the same consequences. Either way, you're going to paint it like you didn't do anything wrong and I did something wrong. And the fact that I'm brown and I have tattoos and I have piercings makes it look like I automatically did something wrong. I've known this for a long time now. I talked about it. Tattoos on my face especially, people right away think I'm up to something, especially cops, authorities. Once in a while you meet a cool cop that understands about tattoos or really like doesn't see it that way. But a lot of times their ideas of what it is a person like me is are colored. So that's what I have to deal with. And I'm not going to fall for that. So yeah, I will be very even about everything. Plus, like I said, for me, most of this at this point is just entertainment and comical. I don't take any of it seriously anymore. The way everything's been handled by everybody else, I know they don't take it seriously either, even if they think they do. So why would I be the one sucker actually playing by the rules or trying to be like, and none of these people had this much attention on them before I even brought it to them anyway. And were you guys trying to stay incognito? Do you not want to get famous? Is that not what show business is about? Like Angie Crum, I saw her the other night, and I will always love Angie Crum, but she's really starting to get on my nerves because she pulled this dramatic, like, you know, I walked into the stand up or sit down show, which is that one that happens at the warehouse. And so I show up there and I didn't even know she was going to be on. She wasn't on any of the flyers. She was a special guest. So it's not like anybody can say I knew, because I did not know. And I had said like earlier in the week, I was going to go see Doc. I had even put in his comments, and so Big Doc. And so I was, I was just going to be there. And so I got there, and then I get in and Angie's on stage. And like I said, I don't have a problem with Angie. So when I walk in with a bunch of chicken strips and, fries and a soda, I was doing it that night. And I was being an audience member. And then I see Angie. Well, I'm not going to walk out because like I said, I don't have a problem with Angie. She's the comic on stage. Let me go watch Angie, And then they were trying to find a place for me to sit, and that place doesn't have a whole lot of seating. But I saw Val, who we all love Val. She takes the pictures for us, and Val was like, hey, Ty. And then, but she did it quietly, but she put her arm up, and then she pointed to her seat, like, you can sit with me. And I did have food, and it just happened to be the front. I sat, like I said, I like Angie, but then she all of a sudden was like, Ty, baby, we don't have a problem, blah, blah, blah. And I felt like, I know we don't have a problem. I already said we don't have a problem. If you have a problem, then you have a problem, but you don't have to inform me that we didn't have a problem. them. And if you did, maybe you could have done it outside and not while you were on stage and called all that attention to it. And now everybody's looking at me like, then really I don't care about people looking. So that's what it is. But at the same time, it was like drama for nothing. And especially when she got off stage and didn't actually talk to me afterwards. I saw her afterwards. I was sitting outside. She didn't actually talk to me. If I ever said something like that, I would definitely, like, right away, I would have got off stage and been like, hey, let's go talk real quick. And so, but she didn't choose to do that. So that's just drama for the sake of drama. And Angie should be thankful too. Like, she really should have worked me talking about her. And I didn't even say anything bad if you listen to that episode, but I used it as clickbait, and she shouldn't have been mad at that because I put her name out there again and I talked about her a bit, and she should have parlayed that into working all the rooms and said I was a bully just like Summer Sinclair did and done one of those. Like, I basically gave her what she wanted, which is the opportunity to do all the shows that she thought she wasn't getting. So how is it I'm wrong for this, you know, in like shouting her out, which is what that turned out to be, because I did say good things if you actually listen to it. But then I started to think, well, why would she have a reason to be mad at me? Because that's the thing. I will completely forget about things, and then I'll think about why people might be mad at me, and then I'd be like, no, that's not, I've always been a good friend. I try to think about things that I could have possibly done that would have like wronged her in some way. And then I thought about, there was one situation where she stopped talking to a particular friend of hers, and then she might have thought that I was being disloyal because she didn't want me to talk to that friend of hers anymore either. And I was like, well, I'm not gonna stop talking to that person just because you don't get along with them. And she did try to like go that way with me, but at the time I even told her, I was like, you know, you're still friends with almost everybody that doesn't like me or talks about me, so why would I not talk to that person because you say, when you're talking to everybody that doesn't like me and hanging out with them? I'm not mad at you for it, but I'm not gonna change what I'm doing or who I talk to for you or for any kind of loyalty to you when you've never extended that courtesy to me. And that's not something I hold against her. Like I said, I completely forgot about it until you had me start thinking about what it is that's what. There was a point when Angie used this bleach that I told her not to use when I got rid of the blonde hair. When I finally got rid of the blonde hair, that was what inspired it. I specifically told her to use this particular bleach that I had been bringing over, and instead she decided to take it upon herself to use this other person's bleach, which I wasn't happy with. Something new in the salon, which is the way things always go wrong, and it burnt off a piece of my hair, and then I had to get a haircut, and then I decided to stop doing the blonde at that point. And it was good for change and stuff like that, so I'm not gonna act like I have hard feelings about that, but that legit happened, and I never made a thing of that, and I never made her feel bad about it. But when it comes to like, you make me jog my memory because you try to make me feel like I did something wrong, well, I'm not doing that with you, Angie. So if you choose not to like me or to be dramatic about the situation and act like there's a problem with us in any way, then you're just gonna have to have that problem, and you can sit with that until you get over it, because I really don't want to hear your story about this is why I thought that. I hit you up personally in text message and told you I love you, and I didn't care about that. So when I did that, you should have known that that's the way I felt, because bitch, why would I lie to you? Who are you? And that's really the way I feel about everybody. Like, why would I lie to you? Who are you? So, like, when you saw the silly little fucking clickbait title that I did, you should have been like, that's just Thai being Thai, which I'm sure you've said in the past, you know, about different situations. But for some reason right now you're being weird and dramatic, and I don't even know if sensitive. You know, I hit her up to tell her that my condolences went out to her because she had a few tragedies, which I won't bring up here because that's her business. But it wasn't particularly personal. She talked about it on Instagram, and a mutual friend had told me, and I was like, I'm going to reach out to her and just let her know that I'm sorry to hear about those things that happened. And then she did send just like a thank you. And so to me, that should tell you that I'm your actual friend, that I even did that. And then it was like a couple nights later that she saw me at, what's it called? And I know that there's always some justification when people do this kind of stuff. You know, there's always like well, there was those tragedies that happened, and no, don't get me involved in any of that. That shouldn't have happened, and that's just what it is. So until you're ready to behave like a regular human being that's not working in drama mode, or if you want to make some kind of content and get yourself somewhere, I don't mind if you use it that way. But as far as like you, person to person, when I walk in stage being like, you know, Thai baby, I love you, I don't have a problem with you, blah, 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 I'll talk to you after the show, and then you don't talk to me after the show, No, that's you not being a real friend, which, like, that's the one thing. Like I said, I do a lot of shit for entertainment and stuff like that, but I definitely do have my real friends, and them I do expect something better from. Like, people don't know this because I haven't talked about it on my podcast, but I lost 2 over 20-year friendship in the last, like, 2 years, and both of them, like, you know, one 20 some years, 22 years, I think, and then the other one, like, right at 18 years. And I never talked about that publicly, even though I could have done Unbothered about it, because to me that was private, and we are actual friends. And like I said, I think when you're actual friends, you don't just go running straight to social media. Like, my thing with Angie was, it had already been on social media and everybody was asking about it, and so, like, a good way of addressing it and telling everybody that I fully endorse Angie. Like, I always talk about how funny Angie is, and I think Angie has a lot of potential, and that's not changing. I'm not saying anything like that. If you listen, I'm not even saying anything bad about Angie, other than she's just being dramatic in that particular way right now, and I felt like we were better friends than that. I feel like me and Angie are friends more on an energetic level, but I also will remind you, if you try to make it seem like I did something wrong, that no, I actually didn't do anything wrong, and technically I've been a better friend to you in a lot of ways than you've been to me. And that I can say with a lot of my friends. Well, no, more and more I'm getting, it's like, that's how I know I'm working life out, is because more and more my friends are, like, leveling up with, like, you know, like, where we're on an even keel. Like, I talk about hanging out with AJ all the time. Like I said, AJ evens me out in a lot of cases. That's why I hate when people go after AJ, because they don't understand that I might hit a different level of crazy if AJ didn't every once in a while just bring me back down and remind me why I'm frustrated and validate it, but at the same time be like, don't let it beat you, which he does all that without even doing it, you know. And then like I said, David Hewlett, because he doesn't take anything seriously in that way, it makes me just have to, I'll come to him a little bit amped every once in a while, and he'll give me his David Hewlett way of saying things, and he's not telling me what to do at all, he's just telling me the way he looks at things. And then that too will make me like, okay, maybe I need to just relax and take it the David Hewlett way and not feed into this. And a lot, like, all of my friends are like that. So that's why I say Julianna, being the closest to Ian, should be the one to really straighten him out and be like, look, stop letting this guy control your life. I know it has to be miserable at home for her, having to listen to him and having to react to everything he's saying, and even having to lie herself and act like I'm a way that I wasn't towards her. But like I said, I did say a fat joke, so, like, let me be clear about that. I'm not, I don't feel bad about that. So anyways, stay unbothered.